Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for August 23rd to August 29th of 2015. And on the 23rd, we've got the sun. You can see it denoted here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Leo, but moves into Virgo later in the day. It's in the 29th hexagram, and on the outside of the wheel, we've got the chop mark for the 29, numbered from bottom to top. The 29 goes yin, yang, yin, yin, yang, yin. And then the 29th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here is the 29th gate of saying yes, the abysmal, the deep within the deep. Persistence, despite difficulties, has inevitable rewards, located in the sacral center in a collective abstract energy path in the sensing circuit called the channel of discovery, a design of succeeding where others fail and failing where others succeed, that connects to its harmonic, the 46th gate of determination of the self, pushing upward, good fortune that may be perceived as a result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we've got the following activated gates on August 23rd. We've got the sun in the 29th gate with the earth in the 30th gate. The north node of the moon is in the 46 with the south node in the 25. Mercury is in the 6th gate with Venus retrograde in the 7, and Mars is in the 33rd gate. Jupiter is in the 59th gate. Saturn is in the 14th gate. Uranus is retrograde in the 51st gate, Neptune is retrograde in the 37th gate, and Pluto is retrograde in the 38th gate. Now, obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. No matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru said, whatever the weather's going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather's for your pleasure. And we begin this week with 3 channel definitions due to the transit field. With the south node in the 25 and Uranus in the 51, we've got the channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first, until November 29th of this year, which is a tremendously long time, where we might experience some sort of leap into the unknown. It's an individual channel which empowers us through the courage to take a chance on something unknown and deal with the consequences afterwards. Obviously, following your strategy and authority will determine if its initiation is correct for you, or faced with multiple possibilities to experience a quantum shift, which ones, if any, are correct for you. In the mundane world, we're likely to see people be more competitive, pushing the boundaries, getting outside of their comfort zones, which will be shocking to themselves and others as they feel the wonder of their own unique spirit. And if you experience people acting unpredictable during this time period, just recognize that it's a conditioning force, which will eventually move on. But this could seem that folks are less in balance while experiencing this foreign energetic. With the defined ego center, people without a defined heart center might feel as if they have something to prove or make promises or commitments that are not correct for them. And the defined G center could have influenced folks without to obsess about where they're heading, where they might find love. This is also individual circuitry, which brings melancholy, or those blue feelings that we sometimes get, that are really best used in some type of creative activity. And because Uranus turned retrograde in the 51st gate in the 6th line on July 26th, this channel of shock initiation is going to be defined the entire time that the nodes are in the 25-46 axis. And then we've also got the sun in the 29th hexagram and the north node in the 46th hexagram, where we have the channel of discovery, which is the design of succeeding where others fail and failing where others succeed, which will be with us until August 23rd, bringing us the energy that if we make a commitment to something, we have to abandon ourselves to it during the very first day of the week. It's through our experiences that we realize that there's no such thing as failure or success, only continual discovery. This is about being in the now and the experience of being alive. We talked about the defined G center and its influence of people wondering where they're headed or hoping where they might find love. The defined sacral center will affect non-generator types and feeling busy and having the endurance to work. Obviously, don't get used to it. They also may think they know when enough is enough, which could lead to a premature or abrupt end to something that really needs more time. And then we've got Mercury in the 6th and Jupiter in the 59th gate. So we've got the channel of mating, a design focused on reproduction until the 26th. This definition brings the energy where people will find it easier to be intimate with almost anyone, which can happen quickly but can also be misunderstood. This is a channel of pure fertile power, as in making babies, but also birthing creative projects and processes. And I'd expect this time period to be where people may consciously or unconsciously break down barriers to intimacy and new endeavors. Using your strategy and authority is really the only way to determine if an intimate encounter is correct for you or not. We talked about the defined sacral center, but the defined solar plexus, for those who do not have a defined solar plexus, this channel definition can bring the unfamiliar wave of emotions and perhaps lead to acting confrontational during the time that the solar plexus is defined. We're going to be talking about the sun's ravaging line values daily because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Obviously, if your strategy and authority doesn't lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. The August 23rd begins with the sun in the 6th line, the role model line of the 29th hexagram. The sun in the 29-6 is confusion, the state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness, exalted, driving blind with energy and determination, often blind luck, the power to persevere that makes no sense, detrimented, a tendency in confusion to withdraw rather than accept the condition or continue to persevere, the power in confusion to caution rather than saying yes. And 6 lines, as I've talked about before, the roof of the hexagram is really looking at what's coming up beyond, what's the next thing that's coming up. And so, this could lead to people being sort of out of touch with what's going on in their immediate environment. Then later on the 23rd, the sun then moves from the 29th hexagram and joins Jupiter in the 59. And we've got the Earth moving from the 30th gate and hexagram into the 55. Let's talk about first the 55th hexagram. This is the gate of spirit abundance. Abundance is strictly a question of spirit, and this shift happens at 9:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 59th gate of sexuality, dispersion, the ability to break down barriers to achieve a union. The sun is exalted in the investigator or first line of the 59, but it's also being detrimented because Mercury is in the 6th and Mercury is detrimented in the first line of the 59. So this is the line of the preemptive strike, exalted, the authority and vitality that in understanding purpose and direction can recognize and eliminate barriers before they become impregnable, the power of fertility to impregnate. Detrimented in this position, the ability and intelligence to recognize recognized, but the deep indecisiveness about how and when to act, the potential of fertility limited by uncertainty. And when we've got the sun in the first, second, third lines, the lower trigram, these are days when people are more looking inward, more absorbed in their own process. The theme of the first line is a fear or an anxiety that needs to be investigated. So it's a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't know, can't make sense of, or don't understand. And then also, I'll just add this in. This is actually the day of my design solar return, meaning that when you have a solar return reading, this is when the sun enters the line that of my design. And in a solar return reading, we don't want to initiate anything new between our design return and our personality return, which mine will be on November 20th of this year. It's important to know these things. This is why the solar return readings are often delivered at the time of someone's design return, and I'll be doing my own solar return reading, shortly. Anyway, and just so people know, I do offer as readings in people's solar returns, as well as the long-term transits like a Saturn return or a Uranus opposition or your Chiron return. Anyway, moving on. On the 24th, the sun then moves into the second line, the Hermit line of the 59th hexagram. At 9:04 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 59-2 is described as shyness, self-imposed barriers, exalted, a preference and natural separateness that protects against the inevitable instability engendered by union. The restriction of sex drive that maintains separateness, detriment of calculated shyness, rooted in deep psychological barriers that even in dynamic individuals will always restrict interaction. Infertility rooted psychologically and biologically that conditions the drive for separateness. Second line days, the line of the Hermit. Everyone's waiting for something. They're waiting to be called, particularly called for their natural talents. Lower trigram, so they're stuck in their own trip. It's not a real great day to have a party or a big social event because people would rather stay home under the influence of the Hermit line. On the 25th, the sun then moves into the third line, the Martyr line of the 59 at 8:25 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 59-3 is openness, exalted, where the search for identity and security can only be achieved through the dropping of barriers in order to define oneself through union, where one is empowered through union and intimacy with others. Detriment, and where openness is transformed into promiscuity and its attendant problems, where the drive for empowerment through union and intimacy can lead to promiscuity. Third line days, the Martyr line. This is about a trial and error process, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Things bump into us, so be careful on the roads, be careful of swinging doors, swinging elbows. Might be a day when you have bonds made and broken. It's also about a trial and error process. It's a good material day, a good day to do business and work on the material plane, but of course you've got to be careful because things could go wrong, but ultimately there's the chance those things could lead to discovery. On the 26th, we have the sun then moving into the fourth line of the 59th hexagram. So up here in the opportunist line of the 59 at 7:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the sun in the 59-4 is described as brotherhood or sisterhood, exalted, the dropping of barriers to union to establish a universal union, the power derived from a non-sexual intimacy, detriment and intellectual understanding that is rarely put into action, where the idea can cannot restrain the sex drive. Fourth line days, we're moving out of the lower trigram, first, second, third lines, into the upper trigram, fourth, fifth, sixth line. So we're moving from a perspective of looking inward to now with the fourth line, looking outward. So it's a great day for social interaction, things of that nature. Also on the 26th, the Mercury moves from the sixth gate, and which means that these two definitions go away. And it moves into the 46th gate, where it joins the North Node. Mercury in mythology is the messenger of the gods. So this is about communication. And Ra talked about that is also the expansion of consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. And what do we need to communicate in this life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated when Mercury's in the 46? I might expect to hear people talking about experiences of being in the right place at the right time, or not, maybe not being in the right place at the right time with Mercury in the 46. This is the gate of determination of the self, pushing upward, good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. And Mercury in the first line of the 46 is being discovered, dedication in obscurity that is unexpectedly discovered. Exalted is art for art's sake. Any creative endeavor that is self-fulfilling sooner or later is recognized. The potential for creative success through dedication. Detrimented, the ability to judge and the potential of those in obscurity, but often solely to the benefit of one's own success. The determination to recognize and benefit from the success of others. On the 27th, the sun then moves up into the fifth line, which is the heretical line of the 59. So up here, the fifth line of the 59, at 7:04 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the sun is exalted in the 59.5 and described as the femme fatale or the Casanova, exalted the power to use love to break down barriers. Given the sun's lightness, there's no negative connotation inherent in this description. The power of sexuality to attract others. Fifth line days, as I've talked about before, this is really about projection. The projection goes positive, then negative. Positive, they could do it. They'd be the perfect person for it. Things like that. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, for whatever reason, they don't meet that expectation, that's when the projection turns negative. The person gets punished. This heretic is tied to the state. So the fifth line day is a day of suspicion, but also universalization, where something can leak out and spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post, something of that nature, or, could be just about anything. But there's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia associated with the fifth line day, which impacts the nature of relationships. Seduction is also a fifth line day. And as I said before, it's only paranoia if they're not out to get you. And if they're projecting on you and you're not meeting their expectation, then they are out to get you, and it's not paranoia. Anyway, on the 28th, the sun then moves up into the sixth line of the 59th hexagram at 6:22 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 59.6 is the one-night stand, the tendency based on personality or circumstances to accept only temporary unions that may be otherwise impossible or dangerous to continue. Exalted, the perfected relationship, whether for a moment or an eternity, the power of intimacy regardless of conditions. Detriment, the basic drive to move on that seeks impermanency as a matter of course and not in response response to circumstances, the drive for sexual and intimate diversity. And 6 line days, like I said, we're on the roof of the hexagram. Well, if you think about being on the roof of a building, we tend to be looking at what's around the building, what's in the neighborhood, what's down the road, not so much at what's happening in the building itself. Ra talked about not getting stuck with your head in the clouds because you'll end up with something that bangs into your kneecaps or your shins. It's a day when there's a lack of focus on what's going on around you because people are looking beyond their immediate environment. Like 3rd line days, it brings certain dangers of maybe not seeing a car coming, not seeing a bill coming, things of that nature. And then on the 29th, the sun then moves out of the 59, leaving Jupiter, and it moves into the 40 up here in the ego center, which brings us a new definition. And with that, the Earth moves from the 55 and joins Neptune in the 37. So the Earth is in the 37th gate of friendship, the family, the manifestation macro and microcosmically of the organic nature of communities. This shift happens at 5:40 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time with the sun in the 40th gate of aloneness, deliverance, the point of transition between struggle and liberation. The sun is exalted in the first line of the 40, which is recuperation, exalted, the ability to relax and enjoy the fruits of one's behavior, the ego strength to enjoy being alone. So we've got, again, we're in a new hexagram, we're in the line in the investigator, so we're back in the lower trigram where people are more looking inward and more absorbed in their own process, again with the themes of an anxiety or a fear that might need to be investigated, so the energy's there for studying, not acting, doing things, not doing things, but looking into them, researching, things of that nature. And then also on the 29th, Mars moves from the 33rd and it joins Venus in the 7. And Mars is in the gate of the role of the self, the army, the point of convergence, by design, the need for leadership to guide and order society that engenders transference and thus influence. And Mars is exalted in the first line of the 7, which is described as the authoritarian, the iron hand, both enlightened and despotic, exalted basic values and rules imposed on a child, the capacity of the self to guide with authority. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. Mars represents the warrior archetype in mythology, and by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. And we've got the 4037 here, and that along with the 3420 and the 4323 is one of the 3 polarities that form a channel. And with the sun in the 40, and we've got the Earth and Neptune in the 37, we've got the channel of community until September 3rd. This definition brings the energy where people will wonder where they belong in the scheme of things and then try to live that out. It's a time of thinking about marriage and family as the foundation of community. Fairness becomes more important under the influence of the channel of community. Balance becomes important in all aspects of life. People will explore where they fit into their community and on a mystical level, where they fit into the universe and what their true purpose is. The defined ego center, again, this is going to influence people who don't have a defined ego center, which is 70% of us, to feel like they've got something to prove or make commitments that may not be correct for them. And the defined solar plexus, as we had mentioned before, For people who don't have a defined solar plexus, this can bring that unfamiliar wave of emotions and perhaps leading them to act confrontational when it's not what their strategy and authority is leading them to. So anyway, no matter what energies are conditioning you during the week, remember this experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that beckon to distract us. And we're all here giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. Just remember to observe your play, watch your movie, as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on August 30th. Should be available on the 29th, when we will continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, and I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you got any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And again, contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you'd like to make a donation or get a reading. My readings tend to be pretty epic. Usually 2 hours, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, whatever it takes to really process all the information that I will share with you. I do have the gate of detail, so it's a lot of information, but it's all very important. And like I said, as well as offering foundation readings, I do offer solar return, Chiron return, Saturn return, and Uranus opposition readings as well. Anyway, as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. And I am grateful that you've taken the time, and look forward to connecting with you in the video next week, or in a reading, or through email if you've got a question. All my best.